Let's talk really quickly about the type of fraud that's happening regularly right now. A few years ago, it was wire fraud. Bad guys were intercepting emails between realtors, title companies, buyers and sellers, mortgage companies. And when they intercepted those emails, they would follow them until somebody put in a wiring information for money to be sent to. They would replicate one of the emails, come in with bad wiring instructions, and take the money, grab it, and run. And it was happening a lot in Las Vegas and everywhere else. A couple of years ago, we started seeing this thing that we've referred to now as seller impersonation fraud. And this is when the bad guy pretends to be the property owner and sells it. So they sell somebody else's property. Now, it usually happens on two types of property. Improved property, so houses, where the owner doesn't occupy the property. Maybe it's a second home or a rental. The other type of property, and this is primarily where the bad guys go, the fraudsters go, is the vacant land. And so what they do is they call a realtor and they'll say, hey, I own this piece of property. It's 5 acres. Let's say it's out in Pahrump somewhere, and I would like to sell it. Well, the conversation starts off normal because I think realtors occasionally get those phone calls, but then it kind of has some red flags to it. The bad guy is going to say something to the effect of, oh, you know what, I need to sell it quick, so I'm really not interested in top dollar. Do you think sellers generally care about the commission that they would pay to a realtor?
I know I would.
Yeah, but they don't in this conversation. They're like, man, whatever you charge is great. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have to use my own notary here and wherever I'm at because, I can't get to a notary. And those are kind of some red flags that come up in the early conversations. But it happens. There's an attempt to do this type of real estate fraud in Las Vegas, at least minimally on a weekly basis.
Wow,
it's happening that often. Yeah, Mike, there's a lot of property here in Southern Nevada that's not owner-occupied and a lot of vacant land. And so the bad guys are out there. And, they only need to be successful occasionally. They don't need to be successful in every effort that they make, and I don't think very many of these are closing anymore. Most of the title companies have put measures in place to keep the deal from closing. But even if it does, this is where maybe for the first time ever, folks are going to get an appreciation of title insurance, because who would you think in this bogus real estate transaction, who is the victim? Is it the seller that had his property sold to somebody else?
I would say the title company loses out on.
Well, yeah, ultimately because of the insurance, right? So everybody wants to believe the seller's the victim. Seller still owns their real estate. There's a deed of record that's bogus, but the title insurance company is going to fix that. The victim is the buyer, right?
Yeah.
The victim is the buyer because they gave up money and they don't have ownership in a piece of real estate. So they're going to tender a claim to the title insurance company. The buyer will, because they paid for it. They got an insurance policy if the deal closed. And so what will happen is they'll tender a claim. The title insurance companies don't get a claim on Monday and write the check on Wednesday. But ultimately, the title insurance company is going to pay out for the loss. And in the process of that, get a deed back because the deed was to them, right? It was signed by a bogus seller, but the deed was to that buyer of the property.
Okay.
The insurance company is going to say, here's your insurance money, but we need a deed back. So the seller's title will be rectified in that process as well. So it's the buyer that's the victim.
Yeah.
And it will be quite a length of time between them making the claim and them getting paid. Things don't, title insurance just don't happen that quickly.